and dynamic Vice Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University, the symbol of Nari Shakti, women power in India, and my own sister, Thiru Gunasekaran, Honorable Shanmugam Sir, Dr. Rajendran, IAS, Thiru Datto Natarajan Sir, Dr. Jha, Thiru Chediyan, my friends Srinivasan, Tamilchelvan, and public representatives from Malaysia, Sri Sivanesan Sir, Thiru Vasanthi, Rosi, and other guests from Malaysia, Singapore, respected professors, scholars, and my dear student friends. This is an important occasion as we have assembled here in Delhi to discuss the contributions of the two greatest kings from Tamil Nadu, from the land of Tamil, who lived 1,000 years ago, about 1,000 years ago, and we are discussing their contributions along with our friends from Singapore, Malaysia, and other neighboring parts of our country. Congratulations to the government, organizers, JNU, for organizing this international conference. As Madam was pointing out, all these years we have failed to discuss about our own true heroes and present them in the true perspectives. But all this is changing now, particularly in JNU also under the leadership of our Madam. So we are all extremely happy to come here for having assembled here. Raja and Rajendra Chola are the greatest icons of India from the Tamil-speaking lands. Their contributions are diverse. Madam was mentioning about their contributions in temple architecture, other fields. You know, there are experts here who are going to discuss on selected themes. But I am restricting myself to the topic maritime practices of the two great Cholas, namely Rajaraja and Rajendran. But as a prelude, we should know, since the ancient times in India, trade was considered as one of the three major economic activities. We have a feeling, when we study economics, we always say there are three sectors. One is primary sector, namely agriculture. Second, manufacturing sector, which is called secondary. Then trade and other activities, they are called tertiary sector. But even in those days in India, including South India, all the major activities were clubbed under three broad categories. And trade was the third important category after agriculture and manufacturing. So from this we can understand the place that our ancient people have given to business, trade, and then services. So trade was taking place through waterways, through rivers, through seas, etc. Multiple sources reveal the superior performance of India through seas. We have all studied as to how hundreds of ships were moving around the world, around the globe. As a result of which the Westerners came to notice the superior performance of India. In fact, the very own word, navigation, is said to have come from India. The Cholas under Rajaraja and Rajendra were the maritime power at the global level during those times. And even today they remain as the model to the entire world, particularly to India, due to their superior performance. They excelled in global trade, superior performance, maritime performance at the global level would not have been possible without the required support systems, without the necessary policies, infrastructure, and a vibrant domestic economy under a visionary leadership. So all these must have been there during those times. And what are the reasons for the success of Cholas as the maritime power? Of course, leadership, visionary leadership, combined with other positive factors. Both Rajaraja and Rajendra, they were visionaries. they wanted Cholas, India, to excel at the global level in maritime trade, and hence they took all the necessary steps. You know, the success of Cholas in the maritime trade during those days involved a combination of initiatives, approaches at the state level as well as at the merchant level, so society level, and they are unique. So I will briefly outline within about 10-15 minutes the major points for the success of Cholas as the maritime power during those times. You know, at the state level, the kings, particularly Rajaraja and Rajendra, they established a superior naval force. Till Rajaraja arrived at the scene, yes, Cholas were performing at the domestic level in business, but Rajaraja took a step further and made the naval force imperial at the global level. So he established a world-class naval structure. So under the king as the supreme commander of the naval forces, hierarchy of qualified, well-trained officials, sailors, they were there put under a perfect systems. So the king was the naval supreme commander, then below him admiral, vice admiral, till the level of captain. There were hierarchies and names were given to them in Tamil. Jaladipati. Jaladipati is one who is the leader for Jalam, water, sea. So Jaladipati, Nayakam, Ganadipati, Mandaladipati, Kalapati. So this is how structures were created and responsibilities were given to people. So this is one reason as to why Cholas developed themselves as a global naval power. Then there were separate department for customs. Under the customs department, there was division of work. There were three important divisions. One department, one segment was responsible for excise. In Tamil it was called Thiravai. Another segment was called inspection, Aivu. Then the third one, intelligence corps, Otru in Tamil. We have to remember that even in those days, quality was given importance. So for maintaining quality, they created a separate segment. It was called inspection. So inspectors would go and test the quality, see whether defects are there. So that was the level at which they were doing even 1000 years back. Then there were inspection, segment for inspection. So this inspection people would go and gather, intelligence. Intelligence people will go and gather factors relating to, the enemy country activities as to how they are trying to enter into our territory or host countries, etc. So there was separate segment under the excise department for this purpose. So we can understand the attention given by the king to the minute level to increase our trade at the international level. Then Cholas, Rajendra and Rajaraja Chola before him, they had their own coast guard. Now we have our own coast guards. Even 1000 years back, they had their own coast guards. So through these systems, they made the naval force as a global force at that time. Then second aspect that we notice from the Cholas is that they created and nurtured the required infrastructure. For particularly business activities, we need to have infrastructure. We need to have facilities. For example, roads, very important. Government of India is giving more importance now. Even in those days, in Tamil, they divided the roads into two. What is called small local roads, they are called Siruvadi, small roads. Then big roads like national highways, Peruvadi. So these Peruvadi national highways, they were given utmost importance so that goods could move from one locality to the port. So this was how they planned the activities. And shipbuilding was given utmost importance. skilled people were given skills, so skilled people were doing it. So India for a long time remained as the most important shipbuilder in the entire world, at the global level. Then third important step taken by the government in those days, particularly under Rajaraja and Rajendra Chola, they sent missions to different countries so that trade could increase. We all know that Rajaraja seized the opportunity when the Chinese government extended its arms after a lull after difficulties in their country. They wanted to enter into trade pacts. They wanted to increase their trade. So they extended their hands, and Rajaraja was the first king to offer his hands in return. As a result, he sent his first mission to China in 1012. So exactly 1010 years back. Then after that, his son Rajendra Chola sent another mission in 1033. And this is how missions were sent, with gifts to the kings of those of China and other foreign countries, to impress them, to invite them to enter into trade agreements. So this is how they increased the trade in those days. And Cholas always tried to maintain friendly relationship with different countries, as I mentioned here, by sending gifts. And there are many stories as to how our people went with gifts to these countries, attended the courts of the host countries, stayed there as the guests, sometimes as the main guests of the host countries. So maintenance of good relationship with neighboring countries, our trade partners, was given utmost importance in those days. Then fifth important aspect is providing suitable environment for foreign trade in our country, in the Chola region. They took extreme steps. I remember an advisory was given in those days to our people, to the people at the local level, local societies, particularly merchants. Whenever foreign merchants come here, you treat them with utmost respect, provide them all hospitality, see that their businesses come to the Chola region, and let them not go to the enemy countries for doing trade. So this is how they were doing. When I read this, I remember the words of Chanakya in Arthasastra, written some 2,300 years back. Similar advice was given to the kings in those days. So this is how Cholas provided a suitable environment in their region for international maritime trade. And the sixth important aspect is Cholas, Rajendra and Rajaraja Chola before him provided all support and encouragement to the merchant groups. This is very important. These merchants, traders, they have to be happy. They have to be given all facilities. So Cholas were continuously giving it to the merchant groups. And these merchants, traders, were given the necessary support and encouragement, not just within the country, within the Chola kingdom, but outside also, wherever they were doing trade, on the seas also. This is very important. And Cholas allowed these merchant groups, similar to the guilds, merchant associations, to function independently to further the business interests. They were allowed to have their own forces to protect them and their goods in the highways, and then in business centers, wherever they were there. Cholas controlled sea piracy. Particularly, we come to know that in the Malayan archipelago, they took steps to combat and then control sea piracy. And through their close relationship with countries like China, Cholas also learned new things, as a result of which they tried to improve, make advances in shipbuilding. And the seventh important point with regard to the Cholas' efforts to increase trade, maritime trade at the state level, is that they were giving protections to Tamil merchants in foreign countries whenever they had problems. Protection was given. And they even went to wars to protect the merchants and to expand trade. We all know Rajendra Chola went to war with Sri Vijaya kingdom in the present day Indonesia. To take care of the interests of the Tamil merchants settled over there. Later, in 1068, Rajendra Chola's son, Virendra Chola, he also went for war with Kadaram. So, Shanmugamji will be speaking about it maybe in detail. So, such actions helped Tamil merchants to engage in business without fear in foreign countries. And the next point is, Cholas also expanded their territories. Their expansion of territories helped in increasing trade. We all know Rajaraja sent his navy to capture Maldives and the rich Malabar coast. These territories were the key points along the Indian Ocean for trade routes. So Cholas sent their powerful navy to these places so that suitable environment could be created. By 1044, Rajendra Chola pushed the borders to the north to the Ganges, conquering the rulers of Bihar and Bengal. We all know that is how he got the name Gangegonda Cholan. And he established a temple similar to the big temple mentioned by Madam. This is called Gangegonda Cholapuram temple. So this is there in Tanjavur district. Rajendra Chola, he had also taken control of the coastal Burma, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, key posts in Indonesian archipelago and Malay Peninsula. All these were done to help the Tamil merchants and to increase the maritime trade. Rajendra Chola invaded Malay Peninsula and Sri Vijaya Empire that extended over Sumatra, Java and neighboring islands and controlled the overseas route to China with his naval forces. This is very important. Madam was mentioning about this also. So these were the steps taken by Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola during their times to protect the interests of the Tamil merchants and to expand trade. And the possession of key points in the eastern and the western coastal areas have helped Chola maritime trade to grow manifold. And the next point is, Cholas always adopted the policy of cultural diplomacy. In fact, even though most of them are in dilapidated conditions, so they established temples in many places. And Rajaraja Chola donated for Buddha Viharas established by Sri Vijaya Empire in Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu. It was under Chola regime in those days. Similarly, Sri Vijaya donated for our Hindu temples in his empire. So this kind of cultural diplomacy was another important reason for the development of maritime trade during Chola periods. And above all, Cholas were known for their ethical trade practices. Of course, if we see the ancient trade history, we all know throughout the world, Indian merchants had a very good name. They were known for their character. Many people have written about it, from Al-Idrusi to so many people. And our own literary sources also show as to how our traders, our businessmen were honest to the core. In Tamil, there is a very important Sangha literature epic called Pattinapalai. It shows how these traders were very perfect. While it is giving, they will be very perfect. Similarly, while accepting also, they will not accept anything more than what is due to them. There is a famous line, Kolvadum Migakoladu, Kodupadum Koregodadu. Very famous line. So they were very perfect. So Chola traders like the most of the Indian traders of those times and even earlier times, they were all known for their ethical practices. So through these 10 important measures, Chola period maritime trade was at its best at the global level. Then even the society, particularly merchants, they were also taking the necessary steps to increase their businesses. At the merchant level, if we see the formation and functioning of merchant associations, similar to the guilds that we see here in the northern parts of India, in other parts of India. And there were many merchant associations. There were many. If I begin to list, it will be many, but I mentioned 4 or 5 prominent associations. Tisai Ainu Triver, Mani Gramattar, Ayya Polil, Valanchiyar, Anju Vannam. They were the main prominent merchant associations, trade associations that were functioning in those days. We have to remember that they were functioning as self-regulatory organizations. They had their own rules and regulations. When somebody deviates, then they had the authority to take actions. Even kings had given permission to them. And they had their own forces, as I mentioned earlier, to protect them, their goods, on the seas and even in foreign lands. So at the business level also, merchant level also, the associations played a very important role. And apart from the states, these merchant associations also, they tried to always maintain cordial relationship with the kings of those countries, with the authorities of host countries and the local societies. So wherever they went, they had their settlements in different countries, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia. In fact, our people were there during Chola period in the entire Southeast Asia and China also. So they had their settlements and they donated to local societies like temples. And this is how they created. In fact, they also used this cultural diplomacy as a method to gain acceptance and then to increase their trade. And the third important aspect that I noticed whenever I studied this Chola trade is that, these business associations, trade associations, to a large extent they specialize in specific activities. So each of the associations that I mentioned, to a large extent they were specialists in their particular field of activities. So as a result they succeeded. For example, this Mani Gramatta, to a large extent they specialized in high valued precious stones. Like this, each of these groups, they were specializing in particular activities. So due to combination of activities, initiatives, approaches by largely the state and at the merchant level also, Cholas remained as the most powerful maritime traders during those times, and there are a lot to learn from them even today in the contemporary period. So if we see the GDP of different countries over the last 2000 years, there is a very important study by Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which says that during the year 1000 CE, Common Era, during the reign of Rajaraja Chola, India's contribution to the global GDP was 30%. 29.8% was India's GDP. In fact, we were at the top. China was some 6% below us. So we were the superpower at the global level at that time. Surely, Chola regime, Chola region must have contributed significantly to the contribution of India, to the share of India in its GDP. So we understand that for the country of India as a whole, Cholas must have contributed a lot through their maritime trade in its GDP and trade activities. So I am extremely happy that I was able to point out some important factors with regard to the Cholas' domination in maritime trade. Congratulations to the organizers. Thank you very much.